Hey there, pirates! Welcome aboard the Anime No Mi channel. Zoro may be about to find the true Shodai Kitetsu by facing off against Nasjuro, since the longsword used by the Gorosei member displays unique characteristics. But the manga has never directly confirmed that it is the Shodai. This leaves room for the possibility that the real one is still hidden somewhere. Ever since the Kitetsu line was introduced as a lineage of cursed swords, the Sandai, wielded by Zoro, the Nidai, seen with Tenguyama Hitetsu, and the legendary Shodai, fans have speculated about who really possesses the strongest of them all. When Nasjuro, the Gorosei representing Mars, appeared wielding a long katana with a black blade, many immediately thought that must be the Shodai Kitetsu, but it was never actually said to be. And that's where this theory takes root. What if his sword is just a look-alike, or even a modified or corrupted version of the Nidai? What if the true Shodai is still out there, waiting to be claimed by Zoro? The mystery starts with the simple fact that Oda never explicitly confirmed the sword's identity, and we all know how careful Oda is when it comes to names, reveals, and context. When he wants to introduce a legendary sword, he makes it clear, like he did with the Nidai. But with Nasjuro's sword, total silence. Even stranger, Nasjuro himself has never made any mention of the blade he carries. For one of the 5 highest authorities in the world, a master swordsman who clearly uses both armament and conqueror's haki at an insane level, you'd expect him to brag about wielding one of the 12 supreme grade swords. But no comments, no names, no visual confirmation in the manga. Nothing? That silence raises eyebrows. Another key point comes from chapter 1059, where Hitetsu reveals to Momonosuke and the others that the Nidai Kitetsu had been in his possession for a long time. If he, one of Wano's last remaining master swordsmiths, had the Nidai, then who has the Shodai? He clearly stated that it's a legendary blade, one of the 12 supreme grades. If it were in the hands of a Gorosei, especially someone as dangerous as Nasjuro, wouldn't he have said something? Especially now, with the world in total chaos and the strongest weapons being pulled into the most critical battles. His silence might suggest that the Shodai is missing or hasn't been seen in a very long time. Zoro's connection with cursed swords goes way back. Ever since the early days of the anime and manga, when he tested the Sandai Kitetsu by tossing it in the air like he was daring death itself, we've known that he shares a natural affinity with cursed blades, and he knows it too. After Wano, where he finally wielded Enma and had to master a new level of haki, it makes sense that he's now ready to ascend to a tier where only one of the 12 supreme swords could match him. And since Enma is already one of the 21 great grade swords, there's just one step left, one of the 12 supreme grades. In that context, the Shodai Kitetsu is the perfect fit, the final piece of the Kitetsu legacy. Now, back to Nasjuro. There's something off about the shape of his blade. It's long, black, wrapped in haki, but its design looks like a distorted version of what we'd expect from the Shodai. That could imply that the sword he wields is a replica, or a mutated version influenced by the demonic energy he possesses. Remember, the Gorosei have demonic forms, so it's not far-fetched to imagine their weapons might also be corrupted or altered by that same aura. If that's the case, then Nasjuro could be holding a false Shodai, a cursed blade meant to imitate the original, but lacking the sacred lineage of the one forged centuries ago. This would reinforce the theory that the real one is still somewhere out there. What would that mean for Zoro? Well, maybe the only way to find the true Shodai is by defeating Nasjuro, not just because he might know where it is, but because he could be the symbolic gatekeeper, the final test before the sword accepts a new owner. There's a fan theory that says the supreme grade swords choose their wielder, not the other way around. If that's true, then the Shodai might be waiting for a worthy swordsman, someone not only skilled, but spiritually aligned with its essence. After defeating King the Wildfire, mastering advanced conqueror's haki, and overcoming Enma's curse, Zoro seems like the perfect candidate. And there's more. The fact that the Kitetsu swords form a trilogy brings a clear symbolism. Zoro started with the Sandai, the weakest, then became aware of the Nidai as a possible upgrade, and now may be on the verge of completing the cycle with the Shodai. To do that, he'd have to earn it, or inherit it, during a pivotal moment in the story. And considering he'll likely clash with one of the Gorosei alongside the other Straw Hats, that battle could put him face to face with the origins of the Kitetsu blades, and the truth behind them. There's also the idea of the will of the sword. In several parts of the manga, especially in Wano, we've seen swords that appear to have their own will. Enma, for example, forces its wielder to release more haki than usual. Oda himself has said that some swords have personalities. If the Shodai is as powerful as people say, maybe it's been hidden away because it's rejected everyone who tried to wield it. Maybe it already chose its next master, and it's just waiting for the right moment. That would be an incredible plot twist for Zoro, the sword no one could tame finally accepting the swordsman who overcame every curse before it. If that's the case, then Zoro's showdown with Nasjuro won't just be a battle between a pirate and a Gorosei. It'll be the ultimate test to prove prove that he's worthy of carrying the most legendary sword of them all. At that point, he wouldn't just complete his trio of blades, Sandai, Origin, Enma, Middle, and Shodai, Finale. He would ascend to an entirely new level as a swordsman. After all, Mihawk has already acknowledged his potential. The next step is for the world to recognize him as the greatest living swordsman, and nothing would scream that louder than wielding the Shodai Kitetsu. This is where the theory begins to tie into Elbaf, the Gorosei, and the possible reshaping of the world order after the final war. Zoro, as a character, represents the path of the warrior, one who seeks his own definition of strength, honor, and fate. It's no coincidence that, despite having no political interest, he ends up at the heart of the most critical battles. A potential clash against Nasjuro Saturn, a Gorosei, is the perfect setup for this kind of story. The Pirate King's most loyal swordsman versus the celestial swordsman of the world elite. And if Saturn isn't wielding the real Shodai, that opens the door for Zoro to find and claim it in a later moment, possibly by defeating a new foe who wields it with true mastery. Another piece that supports this line of reasoning comes from the very legend surrounding the Kitetsu swords. The original blacksmith, Kotetsu, forged cursed blades that challenge their wielders. The legend is clear. Only swordsmen destined by death can control a Kitetsu. From the moment Zoro was introduced, he has embodied that symbolism. He dared the Sandai Kitetsu to slice off his arm and moved forward without hesitation. Oda didn't place that scene at the beginning of the series by accident. It carries deep meaning. And this brings us to the turning point. Zoro wasn't born to wield the weakest of the cursed swords, but the strongest, the Shodai Kitetsu. So why hasn't it appeared yet? A plausible answer may lie in a secret tied directly to the world government. If the original sword is in the hands of the elite, or was sealed away centuries ago, possibly as part of the relics from the Void Century, that would explain why the world has been denied its presence. We already know the world government fears what it cannot control, and a legendary blade that reacts to its user's haki and holds destructive potential on par with the Saijo Owazamono, the highest grade swords, would be far too dangerous in the wrong hands. That's why it's possible that the Shodai Kitetsu was deliberately hidden, or even cursed by ancient forces to ensure it would never be wielded again. Zoro, however, is the perfect character to break that curse. Unlike those who seek legendary swords for power alone, Zoro understands the will of the blade. His sensitivity as a swordsman was emphasized by Kozaburo Shimotsuki, who explained that swords want to cut, and that it's up to the swordsman to understand and control that desire. Mastering Enma was already proof of that. Enma tests its user by drawing out their haki, and Zoro survived that trial. So, if the Shodai Kitetsu turns out to be a blade that demands even more spiritual control and haki, Zoro is undoubtedly the ideal candidate to wield it. Moreover, there's a clear pattern in Oda's storytelling that suggests each legendary swordsman carries a blade of renown. Roger had Ace, Mihawk has Yoru. Odin had Enma and Amy no Habakiri. Ryuma had Shusui. Zoro is walking the path to inherit or conquer the next sword that will define his own legend. The Shodai Kitetsu, being one of the 12 supreme grade swords, must be brought to the forefront before the end of the series, and who better to carry that legacy than Zoro? If Saturn truly doesn't possess the Shodai Kitetsu, and it's hidden or held by an even greater force, such as Imu, or stored away in Elbaf as an ancient relic, its reveal could be the trigger for Zoro's next major power-up, a moment as defining as Luffy fully awakening Gear 5, or Sanji fully unlocking his genetic enhancements. That was today's content. We hope you liked it and want to share your opinion on the subject. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay amazing.